7 p.m. and I call to order this meeting of the Middlebury Development Review Board for December 16th, 2019. First thing, I'll just go over briefly the business agenda. Item tonight is an application for a conditional use approval by Bernard and Sandra in Louis Canal for modifications to the structure destroyed by fire on June 2019, located at 74 Court Street. First item on the agenda, public communications. Does anybody have any questions or comments on any subject other than what is on the agenda tonight? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the DRB for November 25th, 2019?
So moved.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Discussion of changes, questions, or comments?
I got just a couple points. On approval minutes, John McIntyre seconded that. It doesn't clearly say that. And then on line 32, John wanted to us to remind that he recused himself from
Okay.
that hearing.
Right, okay.
So
Noted. Anything else? All in favor of the minutes, of approving the minutes of November 25th, 2019, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the business hearing, public hearing business is an application for conditional use approval by Bernard and Sandra Canal and Louis Canal for modifications to the structure destroyed by fire in June of 2019. The DRB will review the applicant's request pursuant to section 845, rebuilding after catastrophe. The property is located at 74 Court Street, which is located in the office apartment district on parcel 028012. The following is the DRB oath for applicants, interested persons, and those who wish to participate in this hearing. If you are interested in participating in this hearing, please take the oath now. If you do not take the oath, you will not be able to participate. Do you affirm that the evidence and information you are giving in this proceeding is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief? Please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. At this time, I'd ask the members of the board if any member has a conflict of interest regarding this applicant.
Mr. Chairman, both the applicant and one of his adjoining neighbors are clients of mine, so I'll be recusing myself.
Okay, thank you. At this time, does any member wish to disclose any ex parte conversations concerning this case? Hearing none? Okay. If the applicant, our representative, would like to introduce himself and tell us the brief introduction to the
Great.
project.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ben Dettman, attorney here in Middlebury, just stone's throw across the way, next to the Sheldon Museum is my office. Represent the landowners, the Canals. I've been given a copy of the permit application and a notice of violation and some other materials, and I was also given some photographs out of the zoning file, so I think I have a pretty complete picture of the situation from the zoning office, from the file. And I have presented to each of you, I think, a set of 7 photographs or plans and information. I'd like to sort of go through those and highlight a few things and sort of explain some things from the Canals' perspective. Of course, the Canals are here as well and can answer questions if needed. One of the things I want to highlight is that the permit application the top says, describe the proposed change in use or improvements to the property. And what was written there was replace 2-unit apartment dwelling destroyed by fire June 2019. And then in the bigger section where there's a room to include information, it says replace what was there, says some other things, and then below that it says will use existing foundation and footprint. New structure will be the same as the original. And then down below, and I'll stop there to say that I think what the part of the miscommunication here, or misunderstanding on the Cannell's part, is that I think when they thought they were using the same foundation and they said 2 stories, I think they thought in their mind that in a building project, changes happen, things come up, and I don't think they thought that there was anything wrong with what they were doing. I will say that when you read the comments and conditions of the approval, it's quite a bit more detailed, and it says structure shall be rebuilt to be the same as original. Specifically, there shall be no modification from the original exterior historic features, including the footprint, height, roof line details, and shall not increase setback noncompliance. And of particular note there is the roof line, because the roof line is a little bit different. When you look at the picture that's blurry, but I have the little A in the lower right-hand corner, and I put Google Maps in the margin there. That picture comes from Google Maps, and Otter Creek Engineering was kind enough to provide some measurement and some data information about the historical dimensions of the structure before the fire and the height, the elevation of the ridge line before the fire, and came up with, by using a tape measure to measure the foundation, and by essentially setting that measurement on the photograph, the elevation, when you use that scale, proves out to be 16.9 feet. If you move to Exhibit B, that picture came out of the Lister's file. The Lister's card photograph was distorted and needed to be resized to get the scaling right, but once it was resized and you use and verify the 20.3 foot measurement, it measures out again that the elevation is 16.9 feet. So that was confirmation of the height of the ridgeline. And then when you look at Exhibit C, you'll see that the 20.3 foot measurement is also the same, but the elevation now of the ridgeline is 19.7 feet. So that, and there's a little bit of a margin of error there. I understand this was done with total station survey with prismless technology, but there is still a bit of a margin of error. So it's fair to say, though, that the new roof line in that portion of the structure is between 2 and 3 feet higher than it previously was. One of the neighbors who's actually here tonight, I think is Mr. Flora, did not care for the second floor door and balcony, which you can see pretty clearly on Exhibits A and B. So and actually did not care for the first floor door in its location on the front of that structure, which is also the door on the first floor shown on Exhibits A and B. So if you go to Exhibit C, you'll see that there are no doors on that face of the structure, and the doors were swapped out for windows. And the deck has not been replaced and is not intended to be replaced on the second floor. So the hope is that the facade of that face of the building is basically as it will be. And when you go to look at Exhibit D, you'll see that this is where the doors appear, the door for the first floor unit and the door for the second floor unit. These were, again, relocated as a way of addressing some neighbor concerns. If you skip ahead to the last exhibit, Exhibit F, which is this ortho photo that I just handed out last tonight. Doesn't have an F on it. I'm calling it F, but it didn't have an F on it. You'll see that the house is located here on the picture. And it's very, very close to its northerly boundary line, and it's very, very close to its westerly boundary line. So you can see how if doors on the front, which would be, which I guess would be the easterly boundary of the house, or the easterly side of the house, would be very, very close to the house, which is just to the north. Moving those doors to the southerly side of the house basically has them open up onto a parking area and open up essentially back towards would be the back of the podiatrist's office, Dr. Miller's office. So it's less invasive for a residential neighbor. There was some concerns raised about an overhang. Again, looking back at Exhibit B, and looking at the right-hand side of the house, you'll see that the eave overhang was an overhang of about 17 inches. That boundary, as we just looked from Exhibit F, is that overhang is very, very close to the boundary. The new construction reduces that overhang to about 6 inches, which actually improves the overhang on the northerly side for any encroachment issue. If you look at, it's not well shown, but if you look at Exhibit F again, and you look at the back, you'll see that there's not a lot of space behind the house, which would be the westerly side. There was a door shown in a photograph that I saw that came out of the town files that showed a door on the second floor that would need a staircase of some kind in order to be able to walk down to the ground. And a landing and a staircase would probably have been wide and may have encroached on the neighbor's property. That door has been eliminated, and there will not be an encroachment on the neighbor's property. So when we talk about the issues raised, I think some of the issues have hopefully satisfactorily been addressed or explained as to why there are changes in the structure. One of the explanations for the height of the building has been why is the building higher? There's a couple of explanations for that. One is that they reused the foundation and the footprint, and when they did that, the footprint or the foundation was not perfectly even, and the best way to utilize that foundation was to lay the 2x12 floor joists on top of the foundation, which then raised the entire first floor by about a foot higher than it previously had been. And that change thereby raised the roof higher than it previously had been. Obviously, you can see that the pitch of the roof is now sort of a gambrel style hip roof, and it is a different roof line feature than it previously was. The other change is that that roof provides more usable space in the apartment on the second floor, and more usable space means that the apartment is more desirable for a renter, and which obviously helps the landowner. It also helps with the housing issues we've got here in Addison County. I've sort of, I think, addressed most of the issues that I'm aware of, and I'm guessing there are others, or maybe there are others that I haven't addressed or that I haven't addressed adequately enough. I'm happy to hear questions or make points of clarification if I can.
Benj, we've shown two dimensions, the height and the width. Has there been any change to the other dimension, which is the length of the building?
Yep, thank you. Actually, Exhibit G, which I failed to mention, shows the square footage of the structure that's there right now. Again, those measurements were taken by Otter Creek Engineering by tape measure. And I actually do not have a copy of the Lister's card, but I do know that I do actually have a copy of the Lister's card. I think this is it. Showed it was a 24 by 30 foot structure. I will say that Otter Creek said that this structure is on the foundation, the existing foundation. There was no new foundation poured. So I tend to rely on these measurements as being more accurate than what was on the Lister's card.
Okay, so we're saying the depth of it is 26.5 feet.
Yes.
That's a measured,
That's a measured depth.
and we don't know for sure, other than the fact that it's on the same foundation. We don't have any measurement prior to that, to this.
Well, again, the Lister's card showed the measurement as 30 feet, and that overall measurement of 20.3 feet plus 10.1 feet would be 30.4 feet. That's very, very close to what the Lister's card showed as 30 feet for this overall length. And then the depth of 26.5 feet was shown on the Lister's card as 24 feet with two small additions. I don't have any other information other than I was assured by Otter Creek that the measurements were of the existing structure as it's out there now, sitting on the foundation. And that, there's no new foundation poured. So like I said, I tend to believe that these measurements are more accurate than what the Lister's card had.
Was there a survey done prior to the fire at any point that would show the lot lines and the existing buildings at that time?
I am not aware of a survey of the property. I will say that the information on this ortho photo, I'm guessing, is from tax map information. And I do think that the neighbor to the west from Charles Avenue has had some stakes put in the ground, and part of it, his fence was destroyed and was rebuilt. And I believe it was rebuilt in the location. It's actually shown on that ortho photo. You can see the fence. So I don't know that there's any real dispute about the boundary line between the Court Street property and the Charles Avenue property.
I was more interested in knowing the possible difference between the lot line and the edge of the building before this new construction and the new construction, which might have been apparent from an earlier survey. But
Well, I will say this ortho photo was taken from before the fire, and the current footprint is overlaid on top of what was there. It's hard to say what to make of that, quite honestly.
Mr. Dettman, I think, I'm going to ask a really direct version of the same question. This line, the western line on the building,
Yes.
can you or Otter Creek or will somebody else in other testimony say that that's on the existing foundation?
I believe so, yes.
What's the access to the second floor?
So the door shown is a second floor door on D, which currently has the door floating in the air. There will be a staircase running down to essentially the deck, above the deck below.
Okay, so on the previous, when this was reviewed before, this extension, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, someone, this extension here was extended for the staircase to go up to the back, is that correct?
I do believe a prior version of the plan was that there will be a staircase on the back, yes, to
Well,
serve the
the one
doors.
that was submitted and approved.
I don't have a copy of that plan. So that could be, but I don't have a copy of that. I have a photograph taken from a deck that has a dog in it that shows the door on the second floor, but that's the only information I have about the deck. This came out of the town's file.
Yeah, am I understanding, Kevin, you were wondering about whether the staircase was in that addition,
This here, yes, to get
yeah,
up to the
off the
second,
south end?
because that was the entrance to the apartment upstairs. And that, this was not, this was not originally here. This was added to encase a staircase. That's my recollection.
I believe that's the case, yes.
And so,
Um, Well, again, if you look at F,
Yeah.
which is this one,
mhm.
it certainly appears to me as though there is that extension down.
Yes, that, I guess it depends on when this was taken. If it was taken after the previous application was completed, it would be on, that would be on there. If we had a picture of just the Carriage House originally, before the original application, I'm thinking that it wasn't on there, and the reason for it to go on there was to encase that staircase to serve the second floor.
I don't know. I'll say that again, the historical photos that show it after the conversion from
Yes.
garage, what have you,
Well, what I'm leaning
do
to.
show the addition, but
Okay.
I don't know about the staircase. I
Well,
can certainly ask the
The
canals.
reason why I'm saying that is, if that in fact was added for the first application, just for the stairs on the back, and now you're not gonna have those stairs, that really wouldn't be needed for this application. It would,
That 10.1 foot by 8.1 foot addition, you mean?
well, this
bump
area
out
right
here?
Yes. Because the reason it was added before was for the staircase. If that's not being used anymore, I mean, if that's not correct, you know, if somebody has the information
Okay.
contrary to that, that's what I would like to know.
I would say, and I'm certainly interested in providing the information you're looking for, but I would say that in my conversations with the Cannells, I didn't know to ask that question, so I don't know that answer. But I will say that the conversation included the discussion of what the staircase would look like coming down from the new door. And what we talked about it being is that it would fit within essentially the box that's created by that outward line, meaning it would not extend beyond the southerly edge of that addition. There would be a landing, and it would come down just below the little deck that's there, but it would hit the ground down there. Inside what would be
It would be an enclosed staircase, or?
I don't know if they envisioned an enclosed staircase or not. Enclosing the staircase or no?
We didn't enclose the staircase.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could you ask how many entrances and exits are needed, or how many egress are needed for each apartment? That might answer the question. I believe, to meet the state public safety, you need
Okay.
2. And so I think they're still proposing 2.
Are you proposing 2 doors for each unit? Or a window, is one of the methods of egress a window? So the egress is,
So the enclosed stairway that was there before is gonna be still there with an egress,
We have egress windows.
windows or doors, so that's gonna serve as that.
yeah, you're gonna have a door and a window are your 2 windows or your 2 methods of ingress and
Window in
egress.
front with the egress window and window in the back.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think he's saying that what you're calling the stair enclosure is
You're not gonna
not,
utilize that
it's
as a
not
stair
stair
anymore.
access. He's running the outdoor stair to the upstairs.
Inside the building,
So he is proposing to move the stair from where it
Okay.
was inside to outside. That is part of the proposal.
Okay, so the egress window is gonna be,
On the front and one on the back.
that will come
From the second floor?
from the second, so that'll come out onto the roof of the,
When the fire happened before, the stairs burned up inside and almost burnt the people inside with the stairs inside. The guy's shirt was on fire when he came out of the house.
so the egress, you'll have an egress window on the back of the building,
Right.
and that'll be,
Well, it'll have to pass the state
Yes.
fire safety inspectors, criteria. But that is the proposal.
okay.
How do you get from that escape window to the ground?
Jump? Do you have a ladder? Plan for a roll
We had to
ladder?
Put a ladder up, but we didn't have one before.
It's not
The state
required.
doesn't require a ladder on the first floor, on the second floor. If it's higher than that, they do, but not the first floor.
You wouldn't need a ladder on the first floor. Are you saying that the first floor is actually at ground level?
No, the second floor, you don't need the ladder within 12 feet.
I see.
I think it's 10 feet, but not 12.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions from the board at this time?
Is there any change to services being handled in the building from the way they were before, like trash recycling? Is there trash?
Any change in the proposal of how services are provided, trash, recycling, things like that?
All the same as it was before.
Where is trash and recycling for the tenants?
There's four barrels on the west wall. And it's got a boundary, they've got boundaries around them, they got posts around them so they can't get to them. They're those rollaway carts.
Those big toters?
Yep.
You said west, meaning behind the house, or
No,
the
they're on the side of
The
the
so-
back of the parking lot,
south side of the house?
on the south side of the parking lot.
I mean, you can actually see, it looks like an R&L rubbish on D, pictured.
And they're not enclosed, they just sit out there? Are they not enclosed? They,
They're within some posts, but is there anything over,
Posts, right, there's some metal posts there so that they don't get run into.
oh, there's nothing covering them?
Nothing covering. They've got covers on them. You see them on the streets all the time. They got a mechanical arm, picks those buckets up and dumps them into the trash truck.
Okay, Bench, just so that, for the record, the testimony is that the setback on the north and setback on the west of the new building does not encroach further on that setback than it did before.
Yes.
Right, okay, thank you. Anything staff would like to
what about
contribute at this point?
lighting?
Yeah, you should ask that.
Go ahead, Ann.
What are the plans for exterior lighting in terms of timers and compliance with the requirements?
Ask the question was whether there's any plan, what are your plans for exterior lighting?
We didn't have
timers?
exterior lighting before, so. With the street lights out in front.
Anything else from the board at this time? Staff, anything?
Well, I'm wondering what the west side is gonna look like. These pictures give us an idea of the east side, but what's the west side look like now, or what's it gonna look like in the future? Is it gonna look like the east side, only the mirror image?
So, you hear the question, what's the finish on the back gonna be?
Same as the front.
Same as the front?
With the 4 windows, 2 above and 2 below?
It looks good.
And the plan is if there's a fire, somebody jumps out the window into Dan Norwood's yard. If there's a fire, somebody just jumps out into Dan's yard, is that what they're gonna do? If there's a fire?
No, there's room enough. There's room enough between the fence and the building
For what?
to jump out of the top window.
Okay. You're not gonna put any stairs on the back then?
No.
How about, so then, it'd be nice to get a total inventory of stairs and decks and other things that'll be built onto this structure afterward.
There's a ladder out there if you want to.
No, that's fine, I'm not worried about that, I'm wondering, I'm kinda going around the building now, like the other sides, are there decks and, so there's gonna be a set of stairs that comes out the south side then, that goes, okay. And you said uncovered or covered?
Uncovered.
Uncovered. And then this deck on the lower level, on the south side, that's gonna remain, well, I guess there's a little cover over it from up above, but that's just gonna remain like it is, just an open deck like that.
Yeah, open deck like that. It don't have to be as long as it is. If we just put it out there, it can be cut back. It's no big deal to cut it back.
Okay, and then going around the side that we see from the street, no more balcony on that
No
side,
balcony.
just a nice
Front-
flush.
Front flush.
Yep, yep. And then around the north side, there's nothing either, right? Okay.
My neighbor will like it better.
Yeah, yeah, it does clean up the appearance a little, yeah.
Portrait is up a lot.
Okay, that's all I had. Dave?
He
I
asked
have
me not
another
to put it
question.
back, so I didn't.
I just had a couple questions. What is the setback actually from the boundary line to the foundation? Is it greater than 5? I mean, because,
I understood it was enough to accommodate the staircase, and the staircase would not actually encroach, but that's probably not 5, it's probably less than 5.
On what side are you talking?
We're talking
the
about
west side,
The Norwood side, yeah.
the west side along Mr. Norland's property, or Norwood, excuse me.
I do not have that measurement.
When I was out there, I observed the corner markers on the northwest corner
Those
of this
corner
building.
markers- Those corner markers appeared after we started building.
Well, that,
That's not true, they were there prior.
Okay, hold,
Yeah.
yeah.
They weren't there when first.
so,
Go ahead, David.
so my next question, Benj, did you take the oath?
I don't
No,
take
he did
oaths, I've
not.
already taken an oath.
Well, that
did not.
concerned me because
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was
did not.
providing a lot of evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So-
I'm an officer of the court, and I took an oath to be truthful to all the tribunals I appear in front of. I don't take additional oaths. Attorneys don't take additional oaths. If you've had attorneys that take oaths, I don't think they should be taking oaths, because we already took an oath.
I think we want one.
I don't know what to tell you.
Well,
I'm telling you that my
we-
testimony is
well-
the truth to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief. I will say that on the record, but I'm not gonna take another oath. I don't know what to say.
What?
You can also have Mistress Cannell come up here and testify, and ask them whether anything I said is incorrect to the best of their knowledge. They could agree with that. They did take the oath, and they could also clarify any points that they disagree with that I said. I'm happy to do that. I just know that my review of the photographs could be probably a little bit faster and more organized, because I spent some time organizing my thoughts to present them. But I'm not trying to testify for them. I'm happy to have them testify. I'm happy to have them answer questions, additional questions, or to have them agree with what I've said thus far, if that's what you'd like.
Well, in the past, we've had situations where, again, attorneys have given us that reason. And since then, we've had some advice that attorneys or not should be taking an oath before our hearings.
By our rules and not the rules of the court.
Okay?
So, I guess that's, if you're not willing to take the oath, then I guess, then we'll,
Well, let me just say, I already said that I've sworn that everything I presented here is the truth to the best of my knowledge, information, and
Okay,
belief.
so
I
then-
don't have anything
okay.
to suggest to the
So we-
contrary.
So can that be construed as an oath?
If that's the way you'd like to construe it, sure.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Should we still hear from Mr. Cannell regarding the setbacks and so on,
We
as
can-
Mr. Dettman doesn't really know?
Yes, we can certainly ask the property owners if we have questions, or if we want substantial, more information, we can ask them.
I just don't feel that Mr. Dettman has done the best he can, but I don't think he has all the facts. Maybe the homeowner doesn't
I think
either.
David's still asking questions, then we got off on a little tangent. So I think if he can't answer, then Kevin has an opportunity to ask
Okay.
somebody else.
Okay.
Then I'd ask Mr. Canal, the landscape fence that is in back, on the west side along Mr. Norwood's property, is that the boundary fence?
That was the boundary fence, yes. There was before that fence was put there was a page wire fence there. When I first bought the property, there was a page wire fence there, where that fence is now.
I'd like to ask Mr. Norwood that question
Okay.
when,
Well,
at some point in
when I
time.
Open it up. Okay, so, Bernie, to the best of your knowledge, can you assure us that this existing building as it exists now, it sits on the original foundation that was there before the original, before this one was built? That's what we're trying to,
He asked you, can you assure him that the new structure is sitting on the same foundation as the structure that was there before?
The foundation is on the same foundation that was there before. Even, we had it, before we had it, we even used the same foundation bolts on one side of it.
okay,
Because the others were burnt off, so we had to drill them back in to put the foundation bolts in. We did raise it up. We put the foundation on that foundation.
The floor joists, the floor system is
Floor
sitting
joist
on the
is not
foundation.
that floor.
I have a question. Does the building overhang the original foundation?
Yes, sir. Overhung it about an inch and a half on each side.
Okay, thank you.
all the way around, every side. And you,
I'd like for clarification to know the former structure that was there, were there windows on the west side?
Were there windows on the west side, which is the side that leads out towards
There's windows
Charles?
all the way around it.
The old building?
Yeah, there's a photograph actually that came out of the town's file that is hard. I don't know, is there a color version of that?
No.
I mean, that looks like it's a window. It's darker. I can hand you this.
I say, no, I'll look.
Okay. I think it looks to me like there are. photos.
Yes, okay.
Oh, you have it.
Yeah, I have it.
There was a window here, there was a window here, a window there, and a window here, and a window there. There's 4 windows on the back side.
I have one other question. The new configuration of the roof, or the new shape, it looks to me that it doesn't substantially change the deposition of snow or water on either the west or the north side. Is that accurate? From the old structure?
The old structure was an A roof,
Yep.
and this one we got a jut out in it.
Right, but it's not going in a different direction?
No.
There's no crickets or anything up there that are changing it? Thank you.
other questions at this point? Okay, at this time, I'll open it up to the public. If you would have a question or comment, if you would just give us your name, and you may proceed.
Kevin, Kathy wondered if they could use that microphone.
Yes, and if you wanted to go to that microphone to speak, it would be better for our sound system for the recording machine, if that.
Hi, my name's Dan Norwood. I'm the homeowner at 110 Charles Ave that backs up to 74 Court Street. I just have a few concerns with the new construction that's taking place, as it's not the original structure. The roof line has changed, and I guess we'll start there. Actually, let me take a step back real quick. So it may have already been brought to the board's attention, but the building itself is in violation of, and its use is in violation of the town zoning regulations. Section 733 only allowed conversion of that barn if it will conform to the setbacks listed in the regulations. Section 724 says that setback waivers are prohibited where any waiver would permit a yard setback of less than 5 feet. The setback is somewhere between 6 and 12 inches from the property line. My fence is at least 2 feet off of the property line to allow room for maintenance on that side. So the rebuild of it with the changing of the roof, the changing of the windows, and everything else puts it in violation of that again. So the changes, the gambrel roof, while it's only 2 feet taller and it's not an A-frame, it adds substantially to the surface area that is facing my property line, which it's a small yard, it's a small lot, is very imposing looking down into my yard. So add to that originally there was 3 windows, 2 on the first floor, one of those which only provided light to that enclosed staircase, and that's now, I guess, part of the, that one no longer exists, but now there's still 3 windows, but 2 of them are on the upstairs. So there was only one prior second-story window. Now there's 2 large second-story windows looking down into my yard and all my windows. And when the structure came up a foot, that downstairs window also came up like another 2 feet. So the entire feeling of having this little carriage barn that is now appears like 1.5 times bigger because of the gambrel roof is that it's very imposing. And while the lawyer alluded to, by making this a nicer building and having nicer apartments, and it's more desirable by making it bigger and smaller, right, there had to be some type of reaction, and that's going to be a devaluation of my property because of the size and imposing nature of this, of the rebuilt carriage barn. So that's, I guess, my concerns with it going forward is that the windows have changed, so there's not as much privacy as there used to be. The staircase that was built to enclose the original carriage barn and add access to that second story just added to the degree of non-compliance, so that 10 feet is within like a foot of the property line. If you go there, the original wire fence that was there is still there for the most part. The fence pickets that were in the ground, they were there when I bought the property in 2017. So that degree of non-compliance was increased there. It just adds to the overall, I think, I'm guessing in my estimation, like devaluation of the property, having that gigantic thing right there. Just to be clear, there weren't 4 windows on the back side of that thing. There were only 2 with 1 lighting a staircase. And I think pretty much sums up my concerns. It's a structure that is like 6 inches off the property line. It was allowed to be converted. Okay, can't go back and undo that. But now like any degree of change or making it just that much bigger really adds like an imposing feeling. I would invite anyone to come stand in my backyard and just try to like sip a coffee back there with having this new structure with that much more surface area facing our backyard.
May I ask Mr. Norwood a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Norwood, so you're saying that the fence we see on the wooden fence here is actually not the boundary line?
Which wooden fence are you referring to?
Well, on this old picture, that Mr. Dettman brought in?
So that is my wooden fence that I put in.
Right,
2
this
feet-
one here.
Yep, 2 feet off the property line.
So it's not the boundary.
So that is not the boundary. The boundary is, my boundary for my property is 2 feet in front of that fence line.
Towards
that
Mr.
Towards
Cannell's
Mr.
property.
Cannell's property, correct.
While you're here, does that illustrate it? That image?
Yeah, so you can see there's actually 2 sets of property stakes. I believe this is my neighbor's. So that's property stake right there. That is right here in the distance. That is the wire fence that he's referring to. That was the demarcation for our property. So you can see it's actually quite a bit closer. There's 2 feet in between mine.
Is there a good way for me to share that for the record, what he just pointed out, or?
Is
Just
that what
looking
was
at
in the
this
staff
exhibit.
packet?
He's looking at this exhibit from the staff packet and pointing out the wooden fence, which he just made a claim about how far that is, the stake, and what he identified here, the dark shape, is the wire fence that's been referred to a couple times.
I realize it's blurry, but I'll just point out that F shows the property line being easterly of the fence and westerly of the
Yep.
house. So it, I can't say to 2 feet, but
I guess just the last concern I have is like construction can't really happen without, and hasn't happened without like imposing on us in some way, right? Like materials need to be stacked against the fence or even just like maintenance. I don't even understand how maintenance is gonna be attained on like the backside of this thing without, I just don't see how it's possible, with the setbacks that were allowed, without like getting some, I don't know, getting me on board, which like is fine. Like I can appreciate the fact that affordable housing is being brought, but if there were 6 feet of setback there, this wouldn't be an issue.
Just so I'm clear completely, where the stairs were set to enter the building before the fire, were those stairs built into the existing building? In other words,
when the stairs were built in the conversion from the garage to the building that burned, were the stairs built into the existing footprint?
or were
Was the
they
footprint
added onto?
extended at that time to put the staircase in?
We put the staircase, there was a staircase there from the old building, from the horse barn, when it was a horse barn.
And you just utilized that same
Yeah.
staircase?
Yeah.
So it was there?
Okay. That was an open staircase, or?
No, it was in that structure that we talked about, right? The staircase was inside there.
But you said that that structure was added during the conversion? No?
I don't believe I said that.
Oh, excuse me.
I said it's shown in the pictures.
Uh-huh,
And I don't know when it was added, but it's shown in what I've seen.
okay.
Thank you.
I don't believe that testimony is accurate. I wonder if the question was asked clearly. Maybe you didn't hear the question right. It's hard for you to hear, right? So like in the original conversion of the original carriage barn, the first time that you made a conversion before the fire,
Yeah,
you added an addition on the south side for the staircase, right?
no,
No. There was,
that was there.
the jut out was there, it was all enclosed?
It was all there.
Okay.
I had a picture of that, it was a ground picture, and somebody quickly took that, if you're calling it addition, added on later on. I mean, it was added later on, but years before us.
So when you bought it, it was there?
Yes.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments or concerns? Any other questions for the board at this time you'd like to ask? Any other questions for council or the canals? If not, is there a motion?
Did Mr. Flory You didn't have anything to say?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Kevin, I apologize.
Having heard the testimony, I move that we close the public hearing and move to deliberative session.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. We will go into deliberative session and let everybody know what we come up with.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to come out of deliberative session for the meeting of Monday, December 16th regarding the application for conditional use by Bernard and Sandra and Louis Canal?
I make the motion to come out of deliberative session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second. Discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, is there a motion on the application?
I have a motion. I move that the Middlebury DRB, having reviewed the application submitted and having heard and duly considered the testimony presented at tonight's public hearing, December 16th, 2019, deny this conditional use for the as-built modifications to the structure destroyed by fire in the application by the Bernard, Sandra, and Louis Canal, located at 74 Court Street, parcel 028.012.000. Subject to conditions outlined by the DRB in the written decision. The reasons include the change in height, or the increase in height versus the original structure, and the change in the roof shape from a gable to a gambrel, which impact the neighborhood character and which both increase the degree of noncompliance with the zoning and setback.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Other business? Hearing none, except questions about next meeting, any possibilities?
Nothing on the books yet.
Okay.
I move adjournment.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do you have your notes, Dave?
do.
Just in case, Jen probably gets them better than I do, but.
Did I